Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're diving into AI and how it's going to change the future of work.
A very hot topic these days.
Absolutely. And to help us navigate this complex landscape, we're turning to Axel Bernard's book, L'AI va révolutionner le monde du travail.
It's a fascinating read.
Oh, it really is. Bernard makes this really interesting comparison between what's happening now with AI and what happened during the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah, he argues that AI is going to push us towards a knowledge-based economy, the same way the Industrial Revolution shifted us away from agriculture and towards industry.
It's a pretty bold comparison.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, instead of factories and steam engines, we're talking about algorithms and data.
Precisely, but the core idea is the same. These technological shifts fundamentally change how we live and work.
And one of the things I found super intriguing is how Bernard breaks down these different types of AI, like weak AI, which is designed for very specific tasks, like those targeted ads that seem to follow you everywhere online.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Like those ads that know you're thinking about buying a new pair of shoes before you even do.
Exactly. Like they're reading my mind.
Well, not quite. But they are using AI to analyze your online behavior and predict what you might be interested in.
It's still kind of creepy, though.
I agree. It can feel a bit intrusive, but it's a great example of how weak AI is already all around us.
So that's weak AI. What about the other types?
Well, you have strong AI, which Bernard describes as having a more general human-like intelligence capable of solving a wider range of problems, but that's still largely theoretical.
So like a super intelligent computer that can think and reason like a human.
Exactly, and that leads to the really mind-bending stuff. Super intelligent AI, which is AI that surpasses human capabilities in every way.
Okay, now that one does give me a little bit of an existential shiver. Like, what happens when machines become smarter than us?
That's a question that's been debated by philosophers and scientists for decades, and it's one that Bernard explores in his book as well.
It definitely makes you think. But let's focus on the AI that's already here shaping the world of work today. What are some of those key AI technologies that are already making waves?
Well, Bernard highlights machine learning, deep learning, natural language processing, and computer vision as some of the major players.
Okay, break those down for me a bit.
Sure. So machine learning is basically about allowing systems to learn from data without explicitly programming every single rule.
So instead of having to program every possible scenario, these systems can learn and adapt on their own.
Exactly. They can identify patterns in data and use those patterns to make predictions or decisions.
That's pretty amazing. And is that what's happening with those personalized music recommendations I get?
You got those algorithms analyze your listening habits and use that data to suggest other songs you might enjoy.
It's like they know my taste in music better than I do sometimes.
Well, they have a lot of data to work with. And then you have deep learning, which takes machine learning a step further by using these complex neural networks.
Neural networks like the ones in our brains.
Kind of, they're inspired by the structure of the human brain, but they're essentially mathematical models that can analyze very complex data like images and sound.
And is that how self-driving cars work? Like they could actually see the road?
Exactly. Deep learning is what allows them to process the visual information from their sensors and make decisions about how to navigate.
It's incredible to think how far AI has come. But Bernard argues that this is just the beginning. He paints this picture of a future where AI is going to impact pretty much every industry, from healthcare and finance to manufacturing and even the arts.
He really does believe that AI is going to be as transformative as the Industrial Revolution, and it's already starting to happen.
And what really struck me is how Bernard thinks AI is going to change the very nature of work itself. Not just the jobs we do, but how we do them.
Yeah, he talked about how routine, repetitive tasks will likely be automated, which could free up human workers to focus on more creative and strategic work.
So it's less about humans versus machines and more about humans and machines working together.
Precisely, think of it as augmenting our capabilities, like in customer service, where AI-powered chatbots can handle those basic inquiries, freeing up human agents to deal with more complex issues.
It's like having a really efficient assistant who never needs a coffee break.
Exactly. They can handle the routine stuff so humans can focus on the tasks that require more empathy, critical thinking, and creativity.
It all sounds very futuristic, but let's be real. A lot of people are worried about AI taking their jobs altogether. Does Bernard address that concern?
He does. And he doesn't sugarcoat it. He acknowledges that certain roles that involve a lot of repetitive tasks are likely to vanish as AI becomes more sophisticated.
So like those factory jobs where people are doing the same task over and over again.
Exactly. Those are the jobs that are most vulnerable to automation. But Bernard also emphasizes that new jobs will emerge requiring different skills and higher level thinking.
So it's not just about job elimination, it's more about job evolution.
Precisely, he compares it to the Industrial Revolution, where agricultural workers were displaced, but new opportunities emerged in factories and industries.
So it's about adapting to the changing demands of the job market.
Exactly, and one of the key takeaways from Bernard's book is that we need to start thinking about what skills will be valuable in this AI-powered future.
Okay, so it's not just about learning to code or becoming a tech wizard. What other skills does Bernard say will be crucial?
He emphasizes the importance of those uniquely human skills things that machines are not very good at, like creativity, critical thinking, complex problem solving, and emotional intelligence.
Those sound like pretty essential skills no matter what field you're in.
Absolutely. And Bernard argues that these skills will become even more important as AI takes over more routine tasks.
So it's not just about learning how to work with AI, but also about developing the skills that make us uniquely human.
That's a great way to put it, and I think that's a perfect point to transition to our next segment, where we'll delve into some specific examples of how AI is already impacting different industries
Sound good to me?
and how it's creating those new job opportunities that Bernard talks about.
Awesome. Stay tuned for part 2, Deep Divers,
We'll be right back after a short break.
where we'll explore the real-world impact of AI on the ground.
From the boardroom to the factory floor and everywhere in between.
See you soon. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Before the break, we were talking about how AI is going to change the job market, eliminating some jobs, creating new ones. And Bernard really brings this to life with some real-world examples.
He does. He has some really fascinating case studies in the book, and one that really stood out to me was his analysis of AI in healthcare.
Oh, healthcare. That's a great one.
Yep.
I've heard so much about AI being used to diagnose diseases and even assist with surgeries.
Exactly. Bernard talks about IBM Watson as a prime example. It can analyze huge amounts of medical data research papers, clinical trials, patient records, you name it, to help doctors make diagnoses and treatment recommendations.
It's like having a medical superbrain right there working alongside the doctor.
Yeah.
But it makes you wonder, how do doctors feel about having an AI weighing in on their decisions?
That's a great question, and Bernard addresses that directly. He says, the goal isn't to replace doctors, but to give them more information and insights, help them stay up to date on the latest research, maybe catch a potential diagnosis they might have missed, and even personalize treatment plans based on a patient's unique genetic makeup and medical history.
So it's like a highly specialized research assistant who can sift through mountains of data and give doctors the most relevant information.
Exactly. And Bernard says this is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to AI in healthcare. He talks about a future with AI-powered robots assisting with surgeries, wearable sensors monitoring patients' health in real time, and virtual assistants providing personalized health advice.
It sounds like AI could completely revolutionize healthcare in ways we can't even imagine yet. But let's shift gears for a second and talk about another industry that's being heavily impacted by AI manufacturing.
Yes, this is where the whole idea of robots replacing humans really comes into play.
Exactly. You always see those images of robots on the assembly line taking over human jobs.
It's a powerful image, and there's definitely some truth to it. Bernard argues that while some jobs on the assembly line will be automated, AI is also creating new opportunities in manufacturing.
Okay. I'm curious about those new opportunities. What kind of jobs are we talking about?
Well, he talks about the rise of robot whisperers. These are skilled technicians who can program, maintain, and repair these increasingly sophisticated manufacturing robots.
Robot whisperers. That's an awesome job title. It makes me think of those animal whisperers who can somehow communicate with creatures that most people don't understand.
I love that analogy. It's spot on. These robot whisperers will need to understand both AI and how these complex machines work. They'll be the ones making sure the robots are running smoothly and safely.
It sounds like a job that requires a really unique blend of technical skills, problem solving, and maybe even some creativity.
Absolutely. And Bernard predicts that as AI becomes more integrated into manufacturing, we'll also see a growing need for data analysts who can interpret all the data coming from these smart factories and use it to improve production and quality control.
So it's not just about robots welding and assembling things. It's about using AI to make those processes smarter, more efficient, and adaptable.
Precisely. And this leads to another interesting point that Bernard makes. AI can actually make manufacturing jobs more appealing to younger generations.
Really? How so?
Well, traditionally, manufacturing jobs have been seen as repetitive, physically demanding, and sometimes even dangerous.
That's true. You don't often hear young people saying they dream of working on an assembly line.
Right, but by automating those more tedious and risky tasks, AI can shift the focus of these jobs towards problem-solving data analysis and even creativity.
So instead of doing the same mind-numbing task over and over, workers can use their skills and knowledge to actually improve the process.
Exactly. It takes the grunt work out of manufacturing and makes it more engaging and intellectually stimulating.
And that could be a game changer for attracting new talent to the industry. This brings up another point that Bernard makes AI's impact on productivity. I've heard a lot about AI boosting efficiency and output. Does he give any real-world examples of that?
He does. He talks about a logistics company that used AI to optimize its delivery routes.
Oh, interesting. Tell me more.
So they used an AI system to analyze real-time traffic data, weather patterns, and delivery schedules. And the system figured out the most efficient routes for their drivers, which led to faster deliveries and lower fuel costs.
That's amazing. It's like having a super intelligent GPS that can predict traffic jams before they even happen.
It's pretty close, but I have to admit, when I hear about AI optimizing things like delivery routes, I always wonder about the human element. The loss of human oversight and intuition. Does Bernard address that?
He does. He emphasizes that even though AI can analyze data and make predictions, it's still human judgment that needs to guide those decisions. In the case of that logistics company, the AI made recommendations, but it was up to the human dispatchers to make the final call, taking into account factors the AI might have missed.
So it's a partnership between human and machine.
Exactly. And that brings us to a really important aspect of AI that Bernard explores, the ethical considerations.
Ah, yes. The ethics of AI, a crucial topic. We touched on it briefly earlier, but it deserves a deeper dive.
Definitely. So what are some of the key ethical challenges that Bernard highlights?
One of the biggest concerns is the potential for bias in AI systems. Since these systems learn from data, if that data reflects existing societal biases, those biases can get baked into the algorithms, and that could lead to unfair or discriminatory outcomes, especially in areas like hiring, lending, even criminal justice.
That's a scary thought. It sounds like we need to be extremely careful about the data used to train these AI systems and make sure it's as representative and unbiased as possible.
I completely agree. And Bernard stresses the importance of transparency in how these systems are developed and used. We need to understand how these algorithms are making decisions so we can identify and mitigate potential biases.
It's not enough to just trust the technology. We need to hold the developers and companies accountable.
Exactly. And that leads to another crucial ethical consideration. Privacy AI systems rely on massive amounts of data, and a lot of that data is personal information about individuals.
That's a huge issue, especially with all the data breaches and surveillance happening these days.
Absolutely. We need to be very mindful of how this data is collected, stored, and used, and make sure people's privacy rights are protected.
It's a tough balance to strike, harnessing the power of AI while safeguarding individual privacy.
Bernard argues that we need clear regulations and guidelines to govern how personal data is used in AI systems. It can't just be left up to individual companies to decide what's ethical. We need a societal conversation about the acceptable uses of AI and how to protect people's rights while still encouraging innovation.
It's not just about developing cool tech. It's about thinking through the consequences and making sure AI benefits everyone.
Absolutely. And this brings us to another important aspect of preparing for an AI-driven future education.
Education. Okay, so what does Bernard say about that?
He emphasizes the need for lifelong learning and upskilling. We need to constantly adapt and acquire new knowledge and skills as the job market changes.
So it's about being proactive and taking ownership of our own professional development.
Exactly. And Bernard also highlights the role of businesses, governments, and educational institutions in supporting this transition. They need to work together to create training programs, provide incentives for upskilling, and adapt curricula to meet the demands of this new economy.
It sounds like a collaborative effort is crucial for navigating this shift successfully.
Absolutely. And Bernard reminds us that we've been through technological revolutions before. Just like we adapted to the Industrial Revolution, we can adapt to the changes brought about by AI.
It's about having a positive mindset and seeing this as an opportunity rather than a threat.
Exactly. And remembering that this journey of learning and adaptation never really ends. The key is to stay curious, stay engaged, and never stop exploring.
Well said. I think that's a perfect segue to our final segment, where we'll shift from understanding the challenges and opportunities of AI to discussing some practical strategies for adapting to this rapidly changing world.
Great. Let's dive into that.
All right, deep divers, stay tuned for part 3, where we'll talk about how individuals and organizations can prepare for the future of work in the age of AI. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've talked about how AI is changing the game and the ethical questions it raises now. Let's get practical. How do we actually prepare for this AI-driven future?
Well, Bernard really stresses that adaptability is key. We need to embrace this idea of lifelong learning and be constantly updating our skills.
I think a lot of people hear lifelong learning and think, oh man, back to school for another degree, but Bernard seems to have a broader view, right?
Right. He talks about this idea of micro learning. So, like taking online courses, workshops, finding a mentor, just picking up targeted skills as you need them.
So it's more about being flexible and responsive to the job market than trying to predict exactly what jobs will exist in 10 years.
Exactly. It's about being agile and always learning. And remember, it's not just about those hard technical skills.
Right.
Right. Bernard also emphasizes those uniquely human skills: creativity, critical thinking, emotional intelligence, all those things that are harder to teach.
Yeah, those are tough to learn from a textbook. How do we actually cultivate those qualities?
Well, it takes effort, right? You have
Yeah.
to seek out opportunities to challenge yourself intellectually, maybe explore some creative hobbies, practice active listening and empathy when you're interacting with people.
So it's almost like we need to become more human in this age of technology.
I love that. That's a great way to put it. And I think that's a key takeaway from Bernard's book. AI is a tool, it's powerful, but it's up to us to decide how we use it. We need to embrace the potential while being mindful of the challenges.
That makes a lot of sense, and it makes me think about the role of businesses and governments. What can they do to help prepare the workforce for all of this?
Well, Bernard's a big believer in collaboration. He sees a future where businesses are investing in training programs, governments are offering incentives for upskilling and reskilling, and schools are adapting their curricula to keep up with the demands of this new economy.
It sounds like it's going to take a village to make this transition work.
It will, but the good news is we've been through this kind of thing before. Society adapted to the Industrial Revolution, and we can adapt to the changes brought about by AI.
So it's not about being afraid, it's about seeing this as an opportunity.
Exactly. It's a mindset shift, a willingness to embrace change and see the possibilities.
I like that. That's a very empowering message.
And remember, the learning never stops. This isn't a race with a finish line. The key is to stay curious, stay engaged, and keep exploring.
Well said. I think that's a perfect place to wrap up our deep dive on AI.
I agree. It's been a fascinating conversation.
We've covered a lot of ground. The power of AI, the challenges it brings, and most importantly, how we can adapt and thrive in this new world of work.
It's all about embracing the future with confidence and a sense of possibility.
Absolutely. Until next time, deep divers keep diving deep and keep learning.